Camilla's father's coat. Sorry, the Queen's father's
that's
coat of
interesting.
arms in there, which given he was pushed into marrying Diana or whatever the current version of events is, and Camilla was somewhat déclassée. It's worth remembering that her father has his own coat of arms, which has made its way into the coronation invitation.
Yes.
I've had a very, very close examination of it, Hugo. Here's some of the other things I've identified.
Go on.
Doorbells, sleigh bells, whiskers and kittens, crisp apple strudels, cream-coloured ponies, and wild geese that fly with the moon on their wings. It clearly is some of the King Charles's favourite things, isn't it?
Have you spotted Wally yet? Because I'm sure he's in there somewhere.
I did like your comment about whether there'd be a discussion about whether the unicorn should have its tongue in or its tongue out.
Yeah, and I'm sure that means something on a sort of heraldry level that the unicorn.
Does it?
I bet there'd be like a revolution if the unicorn's tongue was in. I don't know, Henry. Well, look, what did you think? It's sort of it's fun. It's busy. It's sort of amusing, but it is quite good at transmitting like the aesthetics of King Charles, right?
Yeah, very, very distinctively Charles. I mean, I thought it actually was a bit naff, but I also that was my first instinct. And then when I thought about it, I thought there's actually no way for an invitation to a coronation not to be a bit naff. I think. Yeah. You sort of expect flowery writing, whatever, but there's no way that you'll think, there's something really classy about this event to which 4,000 people are invited, and he's going to be anointed with oil and stuff. It's all quite strange.
It's not going to be chic, is it?
Exactly.
Yeah,
I don't think coronations are chic. The thing that I was really struck by was this green man at the bottom, which apparently I'm meant to be aware of. Apparently that's a major part of English law, but I confess it's passed me by a little bit.
Well, he looks quite sort of like someone likened him to the one that used to get on the sweet corn adverts.
That's exactly what I was about to say. It's like the face of the Green Giant. No added salt and sugar, but I thought it was very Charles, very eco, but also very it's got his coat of arms in there. It's got Camilla's father's coat. Sorry, the Queen's father's coat of arms in there, which given he was pushed into marrying Diana or whatever the current version of events is, and Camilla was somewhat déclassée. It's worth remembering that her father has his own coat of arms, which has made its way into the coronation invitation.
Yes, I mean, if I was marrying King Charles, I don't think we've got a coat of arms yet. But Fred, what do you think about the Queen, the Queen consort becomes the Queen thing? Because a lot of people, this is something I don't know. So the Times has basically had this strong stance from the beginning that when she became Queen, we have referred to her as the Queen. We've never called her Queen Consort because we thought it was silly. Even when the palace called her Queen's Consort, we took a different view. Some people, they get really, really cross when she's not called Queen Consort. I'm sensing you're not going to care that much, but tell me anyway.
Well, I was interested in who it would be that decided that she should drop the consort bit, because it was the late Queen that decreed that she should be called the Queen Consort. So I guess Charles would be just sitting with his advisors and saying, listen, I'm not altogether happy. I'm not very happy about this consort. And they said, well, actually, you're the king, so you can drop it if you want. All right. So, I mean, that was one of the things that stood out for me on the invite was, their majesties. I hadn't even cottoned on that she was being referred to as Your Majesty, I have to say, since the Queen died. I helped out with the Prince's Trust for a number of years. It's taken me probably up until now to get used to not calling him Your Royal Highness. Not that I've met him, since, but he's teased us with what were considered slightly loony ideas when he was Prince of Wales. Let's be honest.
Yeah, but they're now
and
completely
he's now
mainstream.
going full Tonto.
Yeah. Right. Okay.
I think could it be that it's having the third added to your name that makes you go just a bit more bonkers? I mean, it happened to George, didn't it?
I mean, maybe that was the cause. I don't know. I think with the Queen Consort thing, I think what was always odd about it was like it was describing her job. Like she was the Queen, but she was also it was like the Queen electrician or the Queen chef, and now she just gets to be the Queen. Henry, look, also another royal story this week. It's funny, we never really do much royal on this show, but this week there's a couple. The King has also made a decision to support research into royal slavery links, of which there are, of course, many because they've been around a while. Historic Royal Palaces is going to assist somebody, Camilla de Koning, her name is fittingly, a Dutch academic who's doing a PhD thesis on the Royal African Company, which was a sort of slavery monopoly established by British kings. What do you think about this? Basically, the royal family looking back at its own less sort of salubrious aspects of its past.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I mean, I confess it's one of those where I read the headline and thought, wow, that's pretty bold. And then, when I read the story, okay, they're opening up their archives to one specific PhD researcher looking into one specific episode in history. I mean, I think if you were an ardent royalist, you might fear there's a bit of a slippery slope thing here, which is, if you start to say, oh, yeah, you can look at, participation in the slave trade in a particular discrete period of history. If that starts to go further and further, you might at a certain point have some people asking about the concept of a hereditary monarchy, which to some extent still believes in the divine right of kings, in the 21st century. But look, I think it's interesting. It places Charles considerably to the left of a fair slice of the Conservative Parliamentary Party, which is a not uninteresting development. I think it reflects, to the extent that you can say this about a king, a slightly more liberal, small L sensibility among the king, or from the king, or at least his representatives on earth than you got from the Queen.
Yeah, I mean, Fred, sort of obviously the royal family, or at least the royal family as was, not that there's necessarily sort of always that much direct lineage, but certainly does have a history involved in the slave trade. As we were talking about the Royal African Company, it was in the paper, but the story, it was talking about how the Royal African Company transported more than 187,000 slaves across the Atlantic. Many of them were branded, DY, standing for Duke of York. And I mean, you can't... On one level, I mean, I don't know. You can see why. As Henry says, people might think if you look at this too hard, maybe the whole institution begins to unravel. But you can't go on in this day and age pretending that didn't happen, right?
That's true, but you've got to draw a line between not pretending it didn't happen and going too far back. And we do that at our peril, Hugo. Donald Trump's grandmother was a Macaulay, so let's just not go researching DNA too far back and making us liable for previous misdemeanors in other generations. No,
I love that. Have you done one of those like genetic test things you can do? Because you might find out you're pretty close.
You'll find out later when I get a knock on the door.
There probably is a sample of his DNA on a database somewhere now, thanks to the New York courts.
Not just on a database, on all sorts of things. Sorry, Fred.
As you guys can see, I'm quite happily bald, whereas Donald's gone for a ridiculous swoopy over thing. One last thing I'd like to say about the invitation before we move on, though. Yeah. Do you not think it should have been covered with things that are more representative of the United Kingdom just now? Maybe a shopping trolley in a canal, a pothole, a queue of traffic, and a sewage overspill. Do you not think that should have been on the invite?
Well, some sort of laughing gas canisters littered around, and some crisp packets. Yeah,
empty vapes.
Maybe next time we'll do that.